Pat's personal portrait in this particular case is not the gentleman sitting next to me. He's an academic, part of the political science department at Arizona State University, Professor Sheldon Simon. The portrait is of China. Review for us the basic statistics about the size of the country and the size of the population.
Well, China is the world's second largest country after Russia. Soviet Union was even larger, but of course those parts of the Soviet Union in Central Asia split off. So the world's second largest country, the world's largest country in terms of population, somewhat north of 1.3 billion, and a terrific split between the urban sectors that most Westerners know about because that's where they go, and the coast, going all the way from Guangzhou in the south up to Shanghai and Beijing in the north. That's where the bulk of the population is. But the interior of the country still has large numbers of Chinese. Probably 50 to 60% don't live on the coast. And it's the interior of the country where a lot of the political and social unrest occurs.
You and I have both been fortunate to travel in China. And I think the thing that surprised me immediately was how capitalistic it is.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a phrase that I use when I teach on Chinese politics, and that is that China under Mao was Marxist-Leninist. China in the last 30 years, once Deng Xiaoping came to power, became market-Leninist. In other words, it became very much private enterprise-oriented in the economy, while the political system remained Leninist in its structure.
All right, what's good for us? Is the future in our relationship with China, particularly considering the fact it wasn't that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, when the two presidents of those countries, of our country and their country, met for the first time. Does that bode well for the future of the United States and China, economically and socially?
I hope so. I think the two leaders are aware that their roles within the world depend very much on how they get along with each other. After all, China is our largest creditor. But at the same time, China holds massive amounts of U.S. dollars. So its ability to play with those is limited because if it were to do something with those dollars, for example, try to cash them in, their value would plummet and China's net worth would plummet along with them.
Why do they need us, though, other than to steal ideas, secrets, and conversations?
Well, that's a big part of it, Pat. You're absolutely right. And the question is always raised by this government toward China, you've got to stop hacking us. And the Chinese engage in two things. Well, we don't do that, and we certainly won't do it again. They know that they know we do it.
But can we get them to stop?
No, I don't think so.
But we're the other big-time power.
We are indeed, but hacking is something that's relatively new in the area of international relations. It's an unknown field in terms of, let's say, accountability, law. There are virtually no treaties dealing with the internet or with the use of cybernetic relationships in the ether. And I don't think there are going to be any significant treaties. How can we get the Chinese to stop? Well, what kind of leverage do we have really to get them to stop? I think very limited. They accuse us of hacking them. They're right, we do. We don't. We also deny it, but we do it. We don't do it as much as they do because we don't have as much to gain as they have. For example, we don't hack their industrial sector because their industrial sector is pretty much based on what they've hacked from us. What we do hack is, I'm quite sure, their military and security facilities.
Can they do one favor for us, and that is control the often wacko government of North Korea?
Good question. The Chinese do have leverage over North Korea, and periodically they have exercised it. And it's in two areas. That is, they provide most of the external food for the North and almost all of the external energy. So if the Chinese turn off those two spigots, the North Koreans genuinely hurt. And there have been times when the Chinese have done that for a relatively short period of time. However, politically, the Chinese really don't want to press the North Koreans too hard, because what they fear the most is not so much North Korea's bad behavior. They've lived with it for decades. But what they fear the most is the collapse of North Korea, which would lead to all kinds of bad consequences. A flow of millions of people, Koreans, north of the border into China, the possibility that the Americans and the South Koreans would unify the country, thus putting the United States right on China's border. All of these are outcomes that the Chinese, first and foremost, don't want to see happen.
Professor Sheldon Simon, political scientist from Arizona State University. And if you want to do what you can do in order to maintain a quality relationship, go out, buy an egg roll. This is Pat McMahon. This is Pat's Personal Portrait on KTAR.com.